Welcome to Gaming Reddit Reader. Today we are going to dive into the crazy stories on r/entitled parents, where moms and or dads think that because they have kids they are entitled to everything. Our first story comes from user Pectus Parvis and is titled, "My Mom Sucks." So I found out I was pregnant in mid-January. Happy news. I told my parents at the end of January, and I asked they not share the news yet as I was only 6 weeks pregnant at the time. That same day she messaged a friend or probably two and told them my news. I asked her why she did that and she said friend, won't tell anybody. Okay, I get it, she's excited for her first grandchild. I let it slide. At this time I'm also packing a house for a move to a new state, fixing the house to sell, looking for a new job, interviewing, caring for pets, and continuing my job. 2 or 3 weeks later my mom posted on Facebook the photo of my ultrasound on her stories. I was so angry at her that when I tried to call her I couldn't get words out. She knew about it right when Karma Train happened and left it up for 2 hours until I called. Her only response was, "I know I messed up." So I'm sobbing in my closet and my husband is there to comfort me. But I am so distraught and angry I can't bring myself to talk to my mom. Well, she just told me she knew she was wrong, so I expected her to remove it. She didn't. My husband messages her the YouTube video of how to remove it and she doesn't respond. The following morning, it's been up almost 12 hours now, I got a friend to tell me I should just log into her account and take it down myself. My mom wasn't answering calls at that point anymore and not reading messages, so that's exactly what I did. At least predictable in that regard. It took me one password attempt and 3 buttons to remove it from her stories, a whole 20 seconds to take it down. Now I'm fuming, and I have nothing to say to her for over 2 weeks. Fast forward to my 12 weeks and I have a bleeding scare and have to head to the doctors to check the baby. Of course I wanted to call my mom to let her know I was needing her support. The call was short, I was anxious, she was happy to hear from me. Now remember I was able to log into her Facebook account? Well, I also had her messages notifications, so it turns out she messaged at least 5 people, not family, about my issue and asked them to pray for me. Not something I asked her to do and surprised me she would think of that considering she already knew I was mad at her for sharing my news publicly. My dad wanted to visit to help me pack my house and mom wanted to come with. So they visited and it was awkward. I tried to talk to her about her posting but I couldn't find the right words because I was so upset and I confronted her with the wrong things. I asked her why she told so many people about my bleeding and she said I only told family a lie. I was so dumbfounded by her lie, I teared up and I asked her why. She said because I thought a prayer circle would help, but I said I didn't ask you for that. I didn't want anyone knowing anything. Her response was one I've heard her say my whole life and it's the worst response she could have possibly given me. I'll never do that again. It's her empty solution to everything. Every time she's wronged me as a child, teen, young adult, and now as a mother she's used that phrase to placate me, shut me up, move on from her mistakes. No real solution. I just walked away from her. Here is what Reddit had to say about this. You should curb your instinct to tell her anything. By doing so, your pain will end. Hugs. OP responded, I appreciate the hugs, you kind stranger. I've been keeping baby things away from her, for now. Dealing with the move, selling the house, updating it, has all been so stressful and I don't have the emotional capacity to forgive her. She's reached out to move past this, but I'm struggling. I want to share things, but like you said, so far it's been curbing my pain. And I don't trust her. Mom is no longer a confidant. She ruined your trust. She will learn news when you're happy to share with everyone else, so she's no longer able to spill the beans. She needs to change her communication style fast, or else she won't be the grandma she dreams to be. She'll get supervised visits. She learns of the birth when everyone else does. Tell her your potential boundaries only if you believe she can change. Doubtful. If she talks about you or your family, she lost her one chance to make it better. Or set the boundaries without telling her. The only thing you need to do to move past this is cut off Mom. She's self-centered and has no respect for you or your family. Don't tell her anything about your life. Don't allow her to come to your home. Just cut her off. She's pumping sunshine up your butt. It happens more often than you might imagine. Mothers, faced with the transition to grandparenthood, sometimes act out as a method of control. They try to claim privileges and rights they aren't entitled to, in order to protect their ego and assumed place in the family. You've just learned that your mother is one of them, and you have learned she can't be trusted to protect you anymore. This will extend to your children. You're going to have to tell her the reason why you aren't going to be sharing any more news about your life with her before you are ready to share with the world is because she's not trustworthy anymore. That she's lost your trust and confidence, and it breaks your heart, but you're tired of hearing it will never happen again when you both know it's a lie. That you are heartbroken it's come to this, because you love her so much, and it's like the mother you relied on to have your back is dead, and left behind Facebook grandma. The kind who have to post stolen pictures because they aren't given any, and can't take their own because they aren't invited to be a part of your and your children's lives. Congratulations on your new baby. Your mom sounds like my auntie. She is now in her 70s, but she doesn't stop talking to other people about family stuff. My cousin, F48, her daughter, hated her mother for telling people about family secrets. But the funny thing or cruel thing is, she does this to her own daughter too. Her daughter's first period? The whole world knows. Her daughter's first crush? The whole world knows. Bad grades at school? Didn't wipe her but very well? You name it and everybody who is breathing knows it. My cousin says she doesn't have time to cook lunch or dinner. But she calls my mom like 5 times a day with updates. She doesn't stop there, she calls every person in her contact list, and her mom, my aunt, also calls to tell the same story also multiple times a day just to keep everyone updated. I blocked my aunt and cousin. Now my cousin calls for help, she doesn't know why her daughter hates her. And she wants other cousins' children to stop teasing her daughter at family reunions. We told her to stop telling people private stuff and she blames her mom, my aunt. The last 5 years this mother and daughter couple are calling non-stop. Just to complain about each other and telling new secrets. It's just a circle that doesn't stop. We all tried to help, sometimes it stops for a couple of days. Moral of the story, don't talk about it unless you want people to know. Our next story comes from user Educational Tax 189 and is titled, My Father Demands an Apology After 10 Years of No Contact. I would like to apologize in advance if the English is not correct. English is not my first language. But I will try to do it correct. I really need advice because I don't know it all that well anymore. The story a bit long, but please hear me out. When I was 11 years old, my parents divorced. My father cheated a lot and my mother forgave him every time because she wanted to keep the family together. When I was 11, my father cheated again and ran off with this woman. What followed was a huge divorce with a lot of fighting and arguing. The only thing my father didn't want was us as children. It was decided that I had to go to my father at the weekends. Because where I live, divorces go through the courts and they think it is important that children continue to see both their parents. During these weekends, I was used more as a kind of Cinderella by my father and his girlfriend, and I was systematically abused mentally and physically. Every time I made a mistake in their eyes, didn't do something the way they wanted, didn't get things done on time because I had a lot to do, I was beaten with objects or just by hand. My father's favorite thing was his belt, and my stepmother liked to use an electric fly swatter, which gives off electric shocks when you turn it on so that you can kill the fly without crushing it, so to speak. If you hold it against your skin with the metal part, you will get a pretty hard electric shock. To this day, I am terrified of electric fly swatters, even though where I live they are very common household things. I managed to hide the abuse for years by wearing baggy clothes with long sleeves, whether it was summer or winter. Because of this, I quickly became the weird kid at school and had no friends. The abuse had enormous mental consequences, but I wanted to persevere because I was afraid that if I stopped coming on weekends, my father's girlfriend would work out her anger on my little sister. She was only 5 when my parents broke up. I withdrew more and more to my room when I was with my mother so that I didn't have to talk to her. My mother is a sweetheart. She is really sweet and friendly and only wanted the best for me. She thought I was having trouble with the divorce and that I was starting to go through puberty. She regularly suggested that I go to a therapist, but I always didn't want to because I wanted to protect my sister. When I was 16, my gym teacher found out about the bruises because I suffered an injury during sports class and she had to look at my legs. As a result, child protection was immediately called to see that I was covered in bruises. My mother was so shocked that she kept me and my sister at home from that moment on. The judge decided that the contact arrangements were terminated and that we as children no longer had to visit my father. My father has always blamed me for the fact that he no longer sees his children. He called me a bad daughter and I should never have told anyone what happened in our home. He felt that it was no one's business and that it was bad parenting. That it would make me hard and grow up to be a strong woman who could serve her husband in this way. That if I behaved better and did what I was told, I wouldn't have to be beaten. 10 years have passed since then. Because of what happened and we lived in a small village, everyone knows what happened and he and his now wife did to me. I moved far away from them and cut off all contact with him. I went to therapy to learn to deal with everything. I have a very sweet partner who supports me and also helps me to overcome my fears that I developed because of my father. I regularly have panic attacks at home and am afraid of being home alone. We bought a video doorbell so I can see who is at the door without having to go to the door because I'm afraid he will find out my address and come to see me. He has already tried to find out my address a few times through my sister, since she has been in contact with him again for a few years. Her reasoning was that they have not done anything to her and they are always kind to her, so she sees no reason not to visit regularly. Recently, I received a letter from my father through my sister in which he demanded that I apologize for my behavior and that because of me the entire village thinks he is a disgrace. In the letter he said that he is getting older and his hearing and vision are getting worse. He demands that I apologize to him and that I introduce him to my partner, who really doesn't want that because he knows my entire history. He thinks he has been a good father and that being raised by my mother has made me soft and that I am a bad woman now that I am pursuing a career outside the home in biology. My sister tells me that I should just say sorry and that he will really leave me alone afterwards. He really just wants to hear that he was a good father and that I regret talking to people 10 years ago when they saw my bruises. I really don't want to, but my sister and father's family keep pestering me to say that I should just do it so that he can close it off and the village will no longer find him a shame. I really don't want to and I haven't slept at night because of it. I don't know what to do anymore, and my partner tries to keep me calm so I don't have to think about it anymore because it gives me panic attacks. But my father and his family keeps insisting and nagging me to do it by sending me messages on social media and calling or WhatsApp me. I keep blocking them, but they create new throwaway accounts to reach me or give letters and messages to my sister so she can give them to me. I didn't tell my mother about this because she already feels very guilty that she didn't notice the abuse it all those years ago. So, what do you think? Should I just apologize to get it over with? Edit. Well, I have woken up with a lot of reactions. Thank you all so much. I have asked my little sister to talk soon. I'm going to explain why her behavior is hurting me, and if she doesn't stop giving me the shit from my dad's family, I will go no contact. About my father, I have blocked again everybody on social media and their phone numbers. My partner and I are going to get new phone numbers and we will shut down the social media we have. Thank you all for your advice and I will update when I speak to my little sis. Here is what Reddit had to say about this. Hell no. I have seen his behavior many times when I worked in law enforcement. He is a typical narcissist abuser who will go to any length to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. You have done nothing wrong at any time. Tell him to burn in hell. Send him a bill for all of your therapy. Tell your sister you don't want the monster in your life, and she is lucky she was never abused. Edited to add, have a lawyer send them a cease and desist letter. If they continue after that, call the police and report the harassment. For real, your sister is lucky to never be abused and lucky to have a big sister like you. Tell your sister to stop giving you any letters from them. Don't even read it. I can't believe your sister is regularly visiting him knowing what they did to you. I still haven't forgotten the one time my brother stood up for me like 10 years ago. I would never do something that would hurt him like what your sister is doing. He wants his reputation fixed. You wanted a father who didn't hit you. Sucks to want. I'd go farther and cut the sister out. If she was a loving sister, she would protect Op. She is enjoying this. Do not apologize. Turn off your social media, change your phone number if you need to. If he ever does show up, call the police and tell them he is harassing you. You can even lie and say you don't know him. He is a crazy and disturbed old man. My sister is like this. Funny thing is, she was the one that educated me on what a narcissistic parent is. But yet she never set boundaries. I once told her that she didn't need to self-flagellate. It wasn't her fault that our mom locked on me and didn't get cruel towards her until she had children. She was really brainwashed, I guess, and felt she needed to stick around and be there for our parents. But this isn't about me or my confused sister. You could be right about the sister not enjoying it, but even my sister knew that trying to play peacemaker was useless. I get the impression that the OP doesn't live in the US, so our normal suggestions might not work. Especially since some places the parents will always be believed, especially if you are a woman. Hopefully OP can continue to use that shiny spine of hers and listen to the little voice which tells her the obvious. Her father was/is abusive and is wrong. Apologizing only makes his life better and will give him permission to start up again. He's mad and throwing a tantrum because he can't get his way. Respect is earned, no matter who you are, and he is not worthy. If she has children, this will become glaringly obvious. Loving parents don't abuse their kids. Period. Will you get angry and lose your cool? Of course. But abuse, no. I don't envy her position, but don't give in. I hope either she can get through to her sister or stop talking to her until the miserable bastard of a father dies. Keep the letters but don't read, give them to your awesome husband to keep for now. Might be useful if you have to take him to court for a cease and desist order, unless it's along the lines of "I'm sorry you were a complete failure as a father and that I didn't report you sooner." Please do not apologize to this asshole. He deserves no peace of mind for the rest of his miserable life. And no, do not apologize, you did nothing wrong. Next time you hear anything from the flying monkeys, the assholes who say you should apologize to this piece of shit, tell them that if they knew exactly how he abused you, they wouldn't be pushing you to ever speak or see him ever again. If they want to have him in their lives, fine, but to you he is a piece of garbage that needs to die screaming in pain and alone. Let them know that when he dies, you will want to know where his grave is so that you can piss on it on the date of his birthday every year. You will also not be attending his burial, since he is hopefully going to hell and burning there forever. Our next story is from user Ulf and is titled, "You called CPS because a toddler was running around naked?" I was visiting with a very good friend of mine this weekend after a mutual friend's birthday party. We'd all gone, but it wasn't really a place conducive to quiet enjoyment of a friend's company. There was lots of noise and lights and sugary birthday goodies that everyone partook in, including my friend's two sons. One of them isn't one yet, and the other is balls deep into the terrible twos. The answer for everything is no. Even when the answer was meant to be yes. It's hilarious. Mostly because I can go home. My friend and his wife? They're tired. Understandably so. So, we were sitting in front of the TV and minding the boys while my buddy's wife wanted some time not spent in the immediate vicinity of her offspring. Which, honestly, fair. She drove off in her car and went I know not where, and we divided the labor equally. My friend had the kid who couldn't walk yet, and they were curled up on the couch. I think the intent was for a quiet nap. Me? I was stuck with the 2-year-old. And we had beef. At one point in the birthday party, I was playing skee-ball at an arcade and offered my last ball to the 2-year-old. He wound up like he was on a baseball mound, and I wound up having to go, no, and intervene. He has yet to forgive me for this transgression. So, my charge for a little bit decided watching Bluey was for suckers, and he was going in search of adventure. And I was following him around, because that's what you do when someone places the welfare of their child in your hands. The whole time, he's sulking and glaring at me every time he realizes I'm still behind him. It was so hard not to laugh because it was so overblown and dramatic. So we're in the boys' room, and the kid I'm watching is currently trying to cram his little body under his bed and shouting about wanting mama. Tough luck, kid, mama's taking a break. You're stuck with me. And then there's a knock at the door. It's a caseworker from CPS and a police officer. I didn't realize this at the time, as I was trying to make sure the kid's head wouldn't actually get stuck under the bed. I'd never live it down. My buddy answers the door and is rather alarmed to see the pair waiting at the door. Then they came in and my buddy shouted for me to come back to the living room with the kid. So I scoop up my charge, and he starts squirming and squawking because he wanted to be under the bed, and clearly this is not under the bed. Matter of fact, this is the opposite. And he promptly shuts up. Because strangers. Caseworker goes on to explain that they've gotten reports about toddlers being left outside in the snow with only a diaper on, being left naked to run around the house, bruises on the kids, etc. etc. For the uninitiated, most toddlers? They cannot stand wearing clothes. They want out of them immediately. Even the hint of a chance at ditching the clothing, and they'll go for it. The cop looks around for a moment and says something to the CPS worker and then leaves. I sit with the 2-year-old, who was clothed by the way, and my buddy does all of the talking. I can tell he's furious, but I didn't really know why at the time. Caseworker wanders around the house a little bit, takes a look at both kids, then shrugs and says he can't see any evidence behind the report, but everyone has to be investigated. They'll be in touch, but it won't be a home visit unless new evidence or reports comes to light. After the caseworker leaves, my buddy hands me the not quite 1-year-old, takes out his phone, and goes into the basement. And promptly starts screaming at the top of his lungs into the phone. The 1-year-old just went back to napping, and the 2-year-old showed some survival instincts. He just looked at me and said "Daddy mad," and watched TV with me and his brother. My friend's mother had some sort of mental illness flare up on her out of nowhere. I don't really know the details because it's not my business, but what little I did hear about was horrific enough. Evidently on Grandma's last visit, the 2-year-old managed to escape the clutches of bath time and wound up making a beeline straight out the open front door into the snow. He realized this was a poor life choice seconds after escaping, mostly from face planting into snow after tripping, and struggled not at all to be brought back in for bath time. Why was the door open? Grandma's new boyfriend was rather drunk and attempting to bring in a pile of Christmas gifts that were arriving in late January. He fell down the stairs when he tried opening the door, so they just propped the door open to allow easier offloading. In a nutshell? Shit happens. Kids have minds of their own and do their own thing. He was never in any actual danger, just a 2-year-old doing 2-year-old things. The fact that Grandma twisted the event in such a fashion honestly confuses me. Especially since the root cause of the kid getting out at all wasn't even my friend's fault. The really fucked up part about the report though? The reason there was a cop there was because Grandma told CPS that her son was an alcoholic with a mean streak when he was drunk. And he kept a gun at the door. He does keep a gun by the door. It's a double-barrel shotgun in a small safe with a keypad. Because he lives in the boonies and it's not unusual to see things like bears. To the best of my knowledge though, the only time that gun is fired is at a range, so my buddy and his wife can use the weapon competently if the need should arise. Her own son though? Here is what Reddit had to say. Friend is going to need a restraining order on his mom. Make sure they document everything and get a copy of the police call. Sadly, when a family member calls in false allegations, they are in trouble, and it won't stop. That's no contact, lawyer territory. It's sad but unfortunately true. especially with the misconceptions of what grandparents' rights mean and such. I hope you all stay out of the blast radius and come out of this unscathed. Weaponizing CPS like that means she has declared nuclear war. Go total no contact, if possible, otherwise keep copies of everything she does, text, MSGS, email, Facebook, etc., etc. And all future contact is through a lawyer. She will whine about "I don't know what I did wrong," complete with clutching at pearls, and play the victim. Set up cameras, inside and out. Keep a record of everything. Hire a lawyer to help. Your friend needs legal representation like yesterday. A restraining order on grandma is a definite need. I know it's a tough situation. Sorry, they are going through it. Please advise them on getting an attorney. Regarding the cameras inside and out. Not only will they show their day-to-day life, but it may catch the crap they go through. Be sure the cameras have microphones on them. This can be used as evidence to refute claims by grandma, including the mean drunk bit. Set up cameras, inside and out. Keep a record of everything. Hire a lawyer to help. Your friend needs legal representation like yesterday. A restraining order on grandma is a definite need. I know it's a tough situation. Sorry, they are going through it. Please advise them on getting an attorney. Regarding the cameras inside and out. Not only will they show their day-to-day life, but it may catch the crap they go through. Be sure the cameras have microphones on them. This can be used as evidence to refute claims by grandma, including the mean drunk bit. It would not surprise me to learn that grandma has a bad relationship with her daughter-in-law and her son is supporting his wife over his mother. So in her wisdom she decided to stir up some crap in hopes it will show her son that she means business. If she's really lucky, CPS will take the kids away from them for a while and grandma gets a second chance being a mother. Hopefully grandma now finds out what consequences are, as I doubt her son and his wife will be allowing grandma anywhere around them in the future. And she learns the meaning of fuck around and find out. You'd be surprised on how much a mother-in-law can hate on the woman who stole their little boy from them. Especially when that son then sides with his wife instead of his mother regarding some boundaries. Nothing against your friend's wife, she probably is wonderful. But some MILs are too blinded by jealousy and hate to see how happy she makes her son. Our next story comes from user significant_egg291 and is titled, "My Mom Said No One Wants Me There." When I was a young child in elementary school, I was invited to a girl's birthday party, and I was so excited because I hadn't been invited to one before. When I got there, the birthday girl said, "Oh, why did you come?" I was like, "I was invited," she said. "I only invited you because the teacher forced me." I ended up crying and sitting on the couch with the parents while the kids played in the bouncy castle. My mom had left me there. When she came back in a few HRS, I was red from crying. After I told her what happened, she laughed and said, "Oh, that makes sense." A few months later, I was invited to another kid's birthday and got excited because he was my friend. When I told my mom, she said, "You know they don't want you there. They only invited you there to be nice." A few years later, she admitted she just didn't want to drive me. No matter what I do, I can't forget this act of cruelty. It has affected my ability to make friends. I'm currently 21 and I have no friends because the idea that no one genuinely wants me and are just being nice. I've only been to one birthday since. I've cried many times at my own birthday parties because no one showed up, only to discover my mom didn't send the invites so she wouldn't have to buy a big cake. My mother has since died and my dad refuses to believe she would say this stuff to me, but I remember in vivid detail. Here is what Reddit has to say about this. Oh, OP, that was terribly cruel of the kids and your mom. I'll never understand how a mom can hurt her own child like that. Take a deep breath, OP. You are your own person now. You can make friends on your own. I think you need a self-esteem boost. Why not try to join some clubs or groups like a book club or a church group, maybe a hiking club, etc. There are people out there that are just waiting to be your friend, you just haven't met them yet. I'm wishing you the best life has to offer. It's out there, you just have to grab it. Your mother was selfish and cruel. It was not you. You were just a little kid going through unfortunately regular kid stuff, and she used this so she didn't have to make an effort. As another person here has said, you can find friends now. It may be a bit scary, but there are people out there who really want a good friend too. Reminds me of my mother. She'd say things that were just brutal, then chastise me for being overdramatic / pouting / whatever other label she felt like using. I was apparently not entitled to my feelings. She never got it. Never understood that as my mother, she should be my ally and support. Some parents never get it. Those are the ones who probably shouldn't have children. Pushing 70, and I'm still salty. Wish I could give you a big hug. This is a perfect example of why I do not agree with schools enforcing the all or none rule on event invites. I agree with discreetly giving kids their invites as to not hurt the kids not invited, but kids, especially young ones, are naturally self-serving and will absolutely just say what they are thinking. Things like this where you show up and are treated differently they didn't want you to come are far worse than just not getting an invite, in my opinion. You deserve so much better. I know how that hurts. When I was 8, my family moved across town to, frankly, a much posher neighborhood right on the beach. Amazing that just 2 miles could make such a difference. I'd been well liked in my old school, but the girls in my new class were cold and shut me out of everything. When I moved, the brownie troop I belonged to was getting ready to become Girl Scouts. When I heard some other third-grade girls discussing their troop, I tried to join the chat. They told me I wasn't good enough to join. I was mortified and shut up. The moment I got home from school, I told my mother about the bullies, and she agreed with them. Making friends was much more difficult, and remained that way until I got to university, where I was wildly popular. Who knew? But no, my entitled mother never had my back. I was bullied all through middle and high school. Instead of supporting me, my mother would ask, "What did you do to deserve this?" Nobody is that mean without a reason. It must be your fault, so now I don't want to make friend because I always feel like I'm accepted by obligation. I forced my son to invite all the boys in his school classroom to his birthday party, especially since he was giving out the invites in class. I explained how sad he would feel if he was being left out. I said the boy doesn't have to come, but he needs to be invited. The boy showed up a few minutes late. The boys saw him and all ran to my son's room to hide from him. I went in and told them to get their butts back to the party now. So this kid played the games, had food, cake, always sort of on the periphery of the group. He came up to me and said, "I'm having a good time. I'm really having a good time." It broke my heart to see the kids still sort of avoiding him, but I taught my son to have compassion. As an adult, he has continued to be a kind person. When my now grown daughter was in elementary school, she was invited to a birthday party of a girl in her class. They were friendly, but not necessarily friends. The party was on a cold winter night, and the family lived out in the country. We had stuff to do and she wasn't particularly excited about the party, but we dropped her off at the party and went to the big town and did our stuff. When we picked her up, she said, "Oh, Mom, I'm so glad I went to her party. Nobody else showed up, so if I hadn't it would have been awful." She and the birthday girl and the siblings had pizza and then had cake and ice cream while watching movies. The birthday girl and her little brother remained her good friends until they graduated high school. We never skipped a birthday party after that. OP had posted a follow-up story titled, "What mental disorders do you think my mother had?" After posting about my mother's comment, I started to remember concerning stuff. Trigger warning: possible sexual assault. I posted about my mother saying no one wanted me at a birthday party because I wasn't a popular. Well, after reading so many comments, I started to realize and remember a lot about my mother. For a long time that memory was the main one I could remember about her, but I've started breaking down remembering some of the worst stuff she's done and the idea there could be worse I don't remember or can't. I made a list because I think it can help me to remember. For a long time I just thought I didn't have a good memory, but I just didn't want to. I remember being a kid and she kept having me pee in cups. I asked my dad a few days ago if I had doctor issues or something, and he said he was always the one to take me to the doctor if I needed because his job gave him better pay leave. After I told my dad this memory, he got a horrible sick look. Apparently my mom had joked to him when I was 5 that she could make extra money by selling my pee. One memory that makes me sick is when she used to fill up the bathtub and hold me for hours crying saying, "I'm going to save you from this world." I think she was planning on drowning me. When I was young she used to say I was the reincarnated Jesus and she believed I could walk on water if I tried hard enough. She stole my Nintendo DS I managed to save up for and pawned it. I looked for that thing for years and every time I asked her about it she would say maybe you should clean your room and you might find it. One memory that sickness me is when she drove me to a motel. She and some stranger had sex in the room with me on the couch in the room. After my mom fell asleep the man came over and sat on the couch with me still fully naked. I don't remember anything other than when we left the motel my mom was crying. I asked my dad if he knew, and he said he knew she was cheating but didn't know she always took me with her. I have snippets of other memories pop up of other motels and men, but this one is the most vivid. The man's name was Doc. He lived around North Texas. She used to have my sister and I physically fight each other for her entertainment, just like gladiator combat. My sister had my fingernails still in her arms when we were at my mother's funeral. I feel so guilty for how I treated her. I was younger than her and I saw her as the enemy for years. My mother used to have me ask her for water, and if I annoyed her she would deny my request. I still have issues with remembering to drink water. My teacher told her she thought I had ADHD. My mom responded by taking me home and locking me in a dark closet for a few hours. She let me out before my dad came home. My mom made it clear I wasn't to tell anyone anything about her. I wasn't taught to wash myself or brush my hair. I don't know how teachers didn't call CPS. I smelled and looked awful. I also wore the same clothes to school almost daily. The one case where CPS was called when the school nurse thought I wasn't being brought to the doctor. I told the caseworker I was scared of what my mom would do to me because of her coming to my house. She told my mom she knew this case wasn't serious and she wasn't going to really investigate. My house growing up looked like one from the show Hoarders. I had to wade through garbage, laundry, and organic waste up to my waist to get out the door after CPS was called. She pulled me out of school and into K-12, or as I think of it, the worst 2 years of my life. She had me take care of her cleaning and cooking. She also had me give her insulin and would smack me if it hurt her. When I lost my first tooth, she had grabbed me by the hair for the whole movie. Watch this horror movie about some demon tooth fairy who kills kids for their teeth but can't go in the light. I don't know the name of the movie. I slept with the lights on for 10 years. When the light bulb burned out, I sobbed and had to figure out for myself how to change it or live in the dark. I was too short to reach the bulb. I realize after all this she was a sadistic, sociopathic woman, yet I loved her more than life. Here is what Reddit had to say about this follow-up story from OP. I'm so sorry to say this, but I think your mother not only was narcissistic, but I also believe she had some sort of sociopathic or sadistic tendencies. The way that you described, and also what you've described in your previous post about no one wanting you on your birthday, seems that she just wanted to inflict as much pain on you as possible and enjoy it. I wish I knew the psychology of why, but it sounds like now that she's passed, it seems like now is a good time to try to talk to relatives and the other people that she might have known to ask about what's going on. When you mentioned also that your father couldn't believe anything, either he knew and didn't want to say anything or he's in straight denial because of what you posted here in the last post. Nobody can be that clueless. So I would say I hope that you can get help or at least move on, because I'm sorry to say she just sounds pure evil. Man, OP, your mother is toxic. Not only is she sociopathic, but I think I might also add in, she's narcissistic too. It seems like she just wanted to inflict as much pain on you as possible and enjoy it, but now that she's gone, you can finally start a new chapter in your life. I hope you're getting therapy to help you move on, 'cause your mother just sounded pure evil. You might also want to check out r/raised by narcissists. It's a support sub for people who are raised by people with narcissistic tendencies like your mom. For our last one, we have a story from coding_solving and is titled, I would like to share my story, so I can feel less empty and alone. Words of encouragement can help. Hello. How are you? I'm writing here because honestly, I don't know what else to do. I feel like writing my story will help me feel a little bit better, and maybe you can give me words of advice or encouragement. My mother was always abusive. When I was little, she once hit me hard in the face because she didn't like something I said. She has this habit of belittling you, humiliating you, and controlling you. She is very controlling of what I do, doesn't let me do some things, but she doesn't know she does it. She thinks she's right and that you should just suck it up. She always tells me she loves me and wants the best for me, but she isn't helpful. Once, she threatened to kill herself if I didn't call my dad. They were broken up at the time. She would lock herself up in the bathroom to pretend she was overdosing on pills, and me and my sister were desperate, calling 911. My mom had various episodes like that, throwing tantrums on the street to prevent my dad from leaving her, and it was threatening to her life. To be honest, it was quite scary. Very scary. The kind of thing that traumatizes you. My dad is an enabler. He never protects me from my mother's verbal abuse. He is a victim of it himself. He now suffers from anxiety. When I was little and in school, my friends weren't nice to me. I had a best friend that once admitted to me that she was jealous of me, and my family, and my house. And then she cut her wrists to show me she cared. I had to stay away. Also, the other classmates would bully me, calling me immature. I never did anything wrong. I was always cool with people and nice. But I think people take advantage of that. I suffered from bullying, and when I changed school, my old classmates posted my phone number on a dating website on my town. They posted my phone number and also that I offered services, like saying I was a prostitute. I had an appendectomy before changing school and nobody came to visit me. I was 13 at the time, I think. I changed school and I made new friends there. But sadly, my new best friend disappointed me. I discovered on her Twitter account that she basically hated me. She knows my house, of course, because she visited me. She was my best friend, so I found the tweets repulsive. She would post that she thinks people with a pool in their house think they're better than everybody else. And also, if you have an air conditioner in your house, of course you're going to like summertime, because you have the air conditioner to provide a cold temperature and that you think you're better than people. I'm not from the US, but I'd love to be, and she knows I'm a USA fan. She posted that people that want to move there are idiots. She was jealous of me. When I went to university, my only sister moved away to another continent. She moved a few years ago, and I miss her every day. I felt like a part of me was gone. I would always meet with her friends when there were parties, but when she was gone, I never saw them again. She was the glue that kept me and her friends together and hanging out. The bad part about the fact that she left is that my mom was abusive towards her. She once told my sister that it would be a disgrace if she had children there. And any time my sister would come to visit us, my mom would start screaming that she misses her, but she would get violent and abusive. She never hit her, but she was violent in the way she yelled and spoke. My dad would join her and not defend my sister, but defend my mom. Once, my dad ended up in the hospital due to blood pressure and my mom ended up falling to the floor, to add some drama. She is mentally ill. My sister once told me she is afraid of being a mom because she doesn't want to be like our mom. Every time my mother and my sister do a video call, they end up fighting. Not because of anything my sister says/does, but because of my mother's harsh remarks and comments. It's like she's always looking for a fight. I'm getting tired of this, and it saddens me so much that they don't get along. 2 years after my sister, moved, my uncles and cousins moved to another continent, too. It was very hard for me because I had such a strong connection to my little cousins. I loved them so much, and they loved me too. I felt like another part of me was gone. They sold their house of a lifetime to move away. And I have plenty of memories in that house. I basically grew up there along with my little cousins. A year after, during COVID, I lost my grandpa. And then the next year, I lost another one to cancer. Back in 2018, when there was no pandemic, I also lost my grandma. It was like the starting point to all the losses. I only have one grandma left out of everyone. I'm 25 years old. And when I lost the one to cancer, that was also the same time my ex left me. It was very hard dealing with two losses at the same time. My ex was going away to another continent for an exchange program. See? Everyone was moving away. He was going to leave for 6 months, and I couldn't stand another loss. I left crying from his farewell party and I got drunk because I had seen my grandpa being taken away and consumed by cancer just 7 days prior to that farewell party and my ex leaving. Also, my ex didn't talk to me during the party. He was talking to his friends and I told him that. He understood, but then when I told him that my parents grounded me for being drunk, he hated me and told me I was a little kid. He wanted me to go have dinner to his house 3 days before he would leave, and I couldn't go. I wasn't allowed to. He told me my parents didn't actually care about me and that if I didn't escape my house and defy them, then that meant I never really loved him or care about him. So then he asked for a break. During his time away, he posted photos being affectionate with other women, and I had to see it. This wasn't the first time he was mean to me. I remember once he wanted me to send him nude photos. Or hot photos. When I said no, he said that it meant going backwards in our relationship, or taking one step back, because we did have sex, and sending photos means much less than having sex. He was manipulating me. I remember the first times we started dating and texting. He would reply maybe a day later, and I remember I had to remind him of our dates, because he is just so hands-off when it comes to communicating. I was the one asking him, specifically twice, "What are we?" And he would be like, "I don't believe in labels." But when I told him I did believe in labels, he compromised and we were boyfriend and girlfriend, but it lasted 1 month because then he left and asked for the break. He mentioned the break before, stating that his brother always takes breaks with his girlfriend when he goes away on trips. And that when he comes back, they see where they're at and maybe they get back together. I remember the moment I found out about his trip. We were going to the same singing teacher, and when I came to my class, the teacher said to me, "Did he tell you about his trip?" Turns out he had told our teacher before me. There are a lot of things like this that I won't mention here because the post would get infinitely long. Disrespects, shady attitudes, and not to mention his activities with drugs. After him talking shit about my family and dumping me because my problems were way too big for him, I wanted to die. I was vulnerable to the wrong person. I had told him that my mom, yes, she maybe mistreats me. And that my parents were very mean to me at that time and that I wanted to leave. I remember sending him voice messages crying and being like, "Of course I want to see you, I'm grounded, I can't, don't be mad at me, don't think that I don't love you," but he still insisted that I didn't care and that he was going to dump me. His best friend unfollowed me on social media, and he talked about my family to his family. He didn't want to reveal what his family thought or said about mine, so I felt humiliated to the core. He told me he dumped me because my family problems were too much for him, and that I wasn't independent enough because my mom is controlling of what I do. And that's why he left. As I'm writing this, I can see how strong I am to face my reality and to put it into words, and to share it with you. If you have read this far, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Even though I can share my story, it doesn't mean it isn't heavy. I try every day to wake up with hopes. I am happy. I recognize that while dating my ex I felt anxious, I had social anxiety and maybe he could see that. But I can't feel ashamed of that. It's part of my growth. Now thank God I'm better and I don't have the symptoms I used to have. I guess I held on to my ex because I feel alone. I suffered from way too many losses and I also wanted to have a partner to be with me. Because I can't comprehend why I would want to be with someone that has a hands-off approach and style of communication. Why? Why settle for someone that wasn't sure about what he wanted? He even once told me he felt like he wanted to slap me in the face while we were having sex. Right now I'm trying to put the pieces of my self-esteem back together. It's a struggle. Some days I even think that it would be amazing and pain-free not to be alive. Sometimes I think about my ex being happy with some other girl. I should also add that my family doesn't talk to me. My cousins are too bothered making money, and some of them are jealous of me. They don't send a message to see how I'm doing or anything. I only see them at birthdays and holidays, or when my sister comes to visit. That's when I see them. Otherwise, they don't even bother to send anything. Including uncles and aunts. They don't come to visit me. Here is what Reddit had to say about this. You need to follow in your sister's footsteps and move out. Save up some money, make a plan, move out, whether it's to another town or another continent. It is possible to survive awful parents and bad things in your life like that, but a fresh start is probably what you really need. Leave behind anybody who has been cruel or abusive to you, put them in your rearview mirror, and don't look back. A fresh start in life, a new place to live, a new job, these are all things that are going to help you heal and have a happy life. I wish you well. Leave behind the toxic people. Allow positive influences to be around you. You don't deserve to be treated horribly. Learn to love yourself by removing yourself in that environment. Repeat after me. I love myself. I am worthy to be loved the way I am. I will work on loving myself more every day. Though your ex sounds like a complete shithead, he did have one point, and that was to not let your parents control you. You're 25, and you're telling your boyfriend you can't visit him because you're grounded. You're an adult, you don't have to listen to parents all the time. Sorry if this had the wrong tone. One more thing, there probably are good parts of the US somewhere, I haven't seen them, but the school system is terrible here. My high school doesn't even punish students for being openly disrespectful to the staff. I am a couple months from ending my second or sophomore year and am about to start online school because the mental cases I am around all the time drive me insane. All in all, don't come to the US unless you find a really good spot to live, otherwise go elsewhere. Again, sorry if this had the wrong tone. OP responded to this comment, "Hi. First of all, thank you for reading the whole post. I know it's very long. Yeah, I 100% understand what you are saying. The thing is, my mom is very scary. I didn't defy her because I was afraid of her. I was afraid of her escalating the violence. She's unpredictable. So, that's why it was hard for me at the moment to defy her. But I 100% understand your point, and I also understood my ex's point. But I was scared. My parents didn't want me to drink, and that's just exactly what I did at his farewell party. And they were mad because I was also crying and very sad because my ex wouldn't speak to me, he was talking with his friends all the time. My parents threatened to kick me out of the house, etc., etc. And I was younger then because this happened in 2022. But I understand. Again, thank you for reading and commenting. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Until next time.